Good morning. Good morning. Happy Wednesday. I hope you are having a fabulous morning. It is the day before Thanksgiving, which makes it an extra good Wednesday, right? Either that or extra bad, depending on how stressed out you are about tomorrow. If you are just stumbling on my page, my name is Donna. I'm a mom, a nana, a girlfriend, a wellness advocate, runner, jazzerciser, grad school student studying for my Master of Science in Clinical Mental Health Counseling, and own an online activewear boutique. Lots of hats, and I love them all. And I'm also part-time program director for NAMI Citrus, and I'm super excited that tomorrow's Thanksgiving. I try to be thankful every single day, but as with everybody else, I'm always especially thankful this week, and I have some extra things to be thankful for this week as well. So with that said, if you are here, let me know you're here. If you don't see this till afterwards, hit hashtag replay in the comments, ask a question, whatever works for you. I'm not sure what's going on. Hey, there I am. Ask a question, make a comment, whatever. But just let me know you're here. Facebook doesn't always show me all the things. So if I don't respond or acknowledge you, then just know that it's because I didn't see it, and I will after I'm done. If you have never watched before, if you're just stumbling on my page, then Wellness Wednesday was something that was on my heart to do 110 episodes ago. And it's because I have spent a lifetime battling with functional anxiety and depression, and found that peer support is very helpful, sharing information with others who are experiencing the same thing so that we can swap ideas and things that each other has tried is fabulous. So I encourage you to make comments or ask questions because we can learn from each other. I'm not just here to share my experiences, but I'm here to learn from you as well. So that's how Wellness Wednesday got started. I'm so excited that we're over 100 episodes. Good morning, Miss Carla. And I hope you enjoyed last week's video. If you have been watching, I hope you enjoyed last week's video about battling the shadows that creep in around the holidays. It's an important thing, and it happens. And those of us, even people that don't normally struggle with depression and anxiety, sometimes find themselves struggling around the holidays. Those of us that do struggle a little bit more often find that it seems to be amplified around the holidays. So, and that's a little bit of what I'm going to talk about today. Today is Thanksgiving specific. Because tomorrow is Thanksgiving, there's a lot of stress sometimes surrounding the preparation of a perfect meal, the family dynamics that may occur during family gatherings, and loneliness that may occur when we've lost loved ones or can't be with them because they've moved away. Or for whatever reason. And this happens around Christmas too. So this just isn't applicable at Thanksgiving, but that's our focus for today. The bottom line is that over time, traditions and habits change, and it can throw us for a loop, but it doesn't have to be picture perfect to be meaningful. And that's what we're going to talk about a little bit today. Good morning, Miss Nikki. So the most important thing about Thanksgiving is that it is an opportunity to connect. Thanksgiving is an opportunity, or any family gathering really, is an opportunity to connect with loved ones, with our community, and with ourselves. Now, how can we do that? Well, with loved ones, we can have more meaningful conversations, and we can do things like I'm thankful for what we're thankful for rounds. And I think that's actually a pretty regular thing these days in a lot of households. Creating gratitude jars. I've talked about that many times before. Or sharing funny memories. One of the things that I was introduced to several years ago, because we didn't do it when I was growing up, was sitting around the dinner table at Thanksgiving, and everybody takes a turn talking about the things they're thankful for. And sometimes that's the people in the room, and sometimes that's just the food. It depends on the individual, and any of those and all of those are wonderful and fine. Most recently, my boyfriend's family, there's a member of my boyfriend's family who has this hat that has been in the family for years. And not only do you have to say what you are thankful for, but you have to put this hat on while you're doing it. And it's kind of cool, and it's quirky, and I love it when you can take things that a lot of other people are doing and just kind of make them unique and make them your own. Sharing funny memories is great, especially if you're missing someone that you love at Thanksgiving, either because they've moved or whatever the reason is that they can't be there. Good morning, Chanel. And again, creating gratitude jars, just talking about things. So there's lots of meaningful ways to connect with your loved ones. that don't have to look like anything. And they certainly don't have to look perfect, but we'll talk more about that in a minute. Thanksgiving is an opportunity to connect with our community because there are simple ways that we can give back to our community to show our gratitude just for life or for the ability to do so. And I think that's really important. And I talk about it a lot, and I've always imagined what it's like. However, I have to be honest, I've never really seeked out the opportunity to do something like this, like volunteering at a food kitchen at Thanksgiving. And it's something, good morning, Miss Vicky. And it's something that I would like to pursue in the future, but connecting with your community, that didn't quite want to come out, did it? Connecting with our community by giving back, by donating or volunteering, or even inviting someone into our home for Thanksgiving dinner who is maybe had a change in their situation and is feeling especially alone. These are all things that are, my boyfriend and I, we've talked about many things, inviting our neighbor. My daughter extended an invitation to somebody who has recently had a change in his family situation. So there's opportunity there to include others and make your community a little bit bigger and a little bit more special. And then, of course, there's an opportunity to connect with ourselves. Yes, Nikki, you're so funny. But yes, anxiety is a real thing, and it definitely ramps up around the holidays. We can focus on self-compassion during the holiday, and that's okay too. We don't just have to be focused outward. Exactly. Yes, Nikki, I can find lots of ways to get involved in my community, but the things that I think of in terms of Thanksgiving Day or holidays, I know there's probably opportunities there. I just need to reach out to the right people and find out what they are. So that's definitely a good intention to set for the next year. Thank you for sharing that. So we need to have self-compassion during the holiday too. And that seems like a perfect opportunity to talk a little bit about what my holidays have looked like over the years, because good morning, Danielle, they do change. And sometimes that's what really throws us off, is we get used to doing a certain thing with certain people every single year. This is our tradition. This is our habit. And then people move. People get married. Children are born. Families are blended. People pass on, or they get sick and they can't travel, and it changes the way everything looks. And so if we don't have a little self-compassion, we also can't find compassion for others. It's harder to find compassion for others. So my actual, in the light of self-compassion, one of my actual favorite Thanksgivings, and hopefully my family won't all come after me in a mob form like this, was many, many years ago, when I first started to clean up my diet, and I was worried about Thanksgiving. I was laser focused on trying to keep my food intake under control, just the types of food and the amount of food. And I wasn't going to beat myself up. I was going to enjoy Thanksgiving. But it just so happened that this was one of our first years that me and that boyfriend at the time, that significant other at the time, we had big families on either side, and we didn't want to have to make the decision of whose family we wanted to go visit. We wanted to kind of have everybody together. Good morning, Miss Patricia. So he came up with this idea that we could have both families come to my house because I had a big backyard, and that we could host Thanksgiving, and the weather was predicted to be beautiful, so we could set up tables and chairs in the backyard and have his family and my family there. And it was a great idea. But that also meant that we couldn't make it happen because of his work schedule and other things until that weekend. So on Thanksgiving, I was totally alone. Now, old Donna, good morning, Miss Amanda, who used to wallow in being alone, actually had reached the point where being alone was something I cherished. Alone time was something I cherished, especially when I was working full time in an office and rarely got time alone. So here I am on Thanksgiving, and I'm completely by myself. And the only thing I have to do is get my house prepared for company. So I was actually able to spend the whole day with myself, kind of doing whatever I wanted to do. I got up that morning, Thanksgiving Day. I ran a turkey trot. I kept my diet completely under control. I felt phenomenal. I got so much done in that house. I steam cleaned the floors, everything, all the things that I could never get done any other time. I took advantage of this holiday, and instead of wallowing in the fact that Thanksgiving didn't look like normal, that I didn't have family there on Thanksgiving Day, and that my boyfriend was working, instead of, I harnessed it and I took advantage of it, and I had an entire day to myself where my house and my environment and everything was completely under my control. And when you're somebody that suffers from anxiety on a regular basis, sometimes that can really be therapeutic. So it was music, and it was cleaning, and it was therapeutic cleaning. Like it was, literally just taking out all my frustrations, anything like that on my home. And just, it was actually one of my favorite Thanksgiving days ever. My lunch for Thanksgiving Day was a tuna sandwich mixed with hummus, and a little bit of garlic powder. It was so good. I mean, just, it's funny how these little things can make such a huge difference. So that's actually one of my favorite holidays, an example of how my holidays the way my holiday celebrations looked kind of took one of its very first sharp turns. So other ways that holidays have looked over the year is, again, merging families. We just talked about that. Backyards, table squares. This year we are hosting for the first time in 3 years. And again, my boyfriend, a lot of his family is coming. Some of my family is coming. And we want to eat outside. We want to put the tables out in the backyard. Yes, that sounds great, Nikki. I just turn everything up so loud that the neighbors can probably hear it. I don't need noise canceling headphones. Something would probably scare the crap out of me if I did that. Or I would vacuum the whole house and not realize that it wasn't plugged in. In any case, so we wanted to do that this year. We wanted to eat outside, but we have a lot of trees in the backyard, which is a blessing. But this time of year also means a lot of acorn shrapnel. So we decided we weren't going to do dinner outside this year because we don't want anybody to get knocked out by the acorns that are falling. So we have a square set up in a room of our house, and we've got some great plans, and I'm super excited about it. And we extended some extra invitations out, and we're really just looking forward to it. But the biggest thing here is when you're dealing with family changes, my mom was thinking about coming up, but then we had a little bit of a situation there, and she is not able to travel right now. So that looks a little different. Years ago, one of the reasons that Thanksgiving had to change or look different was because a family member had a stroke, so they couldn't travel. Again, people get married. Your kids have to start kind of alternating holidays between different sides of the family. And that's okay, because it's important to remember that it's important for me to remember that it's not about me. And I struggled a lot initially in my divorce when my daughter was younger, because every single first holiday looked a lot different than what it had for past years. But I also learned in that time to be a little bit more flexible and a little bit less of a perfectionist in my head about what it was supposed to look like. That first year was rough. I've talked a little bit about that before, especially Christmas. But I learned to be flexible, and that's made me a more flexible person now, because when my kids need to be at someone else's house for Thanksgiving, our conversation looks more like, what is the plan this year? What are you doing? I don't think we're going to host. I think we're going to go here instead. What are you all doing? I don't necessarily feel that need to see them on Thanksgiving, as long as there's communication and there's love and there's flexibility, because it's not fair I remember doing it. I remember hitting like 3 or 4 different houses on Thanksgiving Day, and the whole day ended up more stressful than it did full of gratitude. And we probably should have just been grateful that we had the ability to do that, but it can be very stressful, especially when you have small children. So the bottom line is it's not always about you, and not everything is going to look the same every year, year after year, all the time, because circumstances change dramatically in a lot of different ways. People move away. Somebody might decide to take a Thanksgiving cruise instead of being home for the holidays. And we need to be flexible, and we need to be understanding and self-compassionate. Or it's self-compassionate so we can be compassionate with them. So merging families, especially over time as our kids grow up and as they get married, as there's grandkids, sometimes second marriages, these are things that definitely change the face of each and every holiday. And it's okay. It's okay for that to happen. And it's okay to start new traditions or change them or be flexible within what you do. In fact, you'll probably find it a lot less stressful if you can find a way to do that. Another year at Thanksgiving was when my grandmother was in an assisted living facility. So we decided to go down there and have Thanksgiving with her at the assisted living facility. And that was amazing. And it was just as meaningful. It was just different. And that was okay. Turkey trots. For years, I did turkey trots every Thanksgiving morning. I'm not doing one this year because I haven't been running consistently. I've been focused on another physical health goal, so I haven't been prioritizing running. But normally I do a turkey trot on Thanksgiving Day. There was one year where my brother decided to host Thanksgiving down in the St. Pete area. So I was trying to figure out how to make that work and still stay true to my little tradition. And what that ended up being was I found a turkey trot that was actually about halfway in between me and his home, and brought a bag of clothes, and I ran my turkey trot. I left the house early enough to run my turkey trot, and then I continued on to his house and showered there and spent Thanksgiving with them and my mother and his girlfriend's family at the time. So, and like I said, what it looks like now is this is, about every 3 years we end up hosting, and it's wonderful. But we always have a place to go, and not every year has to be set in stone. And we've learned to be flexible and make it work for as much as we can for everybody, and be grateful not only for the people that can join us, but for the people that can't for whatever reason. So that's kind of how my holidays have changed over the years. When I was a kid growing up, a lot of times it was just the three of us. And then when one of my younger brothers was born, the four of us, and Thanksgiving was really not a big deal. And it kind of just looked like an everyday, whereas other members of my family thought that Thanksgiving was far more important, and they even prioritized it over Christmas. So when we had the ability to get together with them, it had to be a bigger deal. And then, of course, you also have family members that have to have their traditional stuff no matter what. Even if it doesn't get touched, you got to have a small ham in case somebody doesn't like turkey and all those things. But the most important thing here, and the message here is to be flexible, because not everything is always going to be the same or look like it always has, or look like the picture in your head. So how can we make the time with our families more meaningful regardless of what it looks like? There's some cool interactive activities and strategies that I found that I really, really like. And some of them I've done before, and some of them you kind of may already know intuitively, but we just don't do it, or we think about it, but then we just don't get there. So one of them was connection cards. To take little cards and write down something you appreciate about someone else and share it with that person. So this could look like a card exchange at the Thanksgiving dinner table. Maybe everybody draws a name out of a hat and writes something they love or appreciate about that person, and then exchanges cards. Maybe they get read out loud. Maybe you do that with somebody that's not able to join you for Thanksgiving, and you write down something and maybe drop it in the mail, or drop it in their mailbox if it's a neighbor or whatever. Gratitude. While we're on the subject of gratitude, I would love to see you drop a comment here about something or someone you're thankful for. But gratitude jars, you guys know I'm a big fan of that. I've been hard at it. I've missed a little bit of time over the year, but it's a lot fuller than it looks because I keep packing down papers. Gratitude jars. This is a great time while your family's all here, maybe to have everybody bring a box or a jar and decorate it as the gratitude jar and get it started if you've not done one before. That can be a great family activity. Another idea that I just don't know why I never thought of, and I thought it was fantastic, and we're trying to work on making that happen this year here, is instead of a regular tablecloth on your Thanksgiving table, especially if you have kids or you have a bigger group, get butcher paper or craft paper and roll it out as your tablecloths, and put out crayons, markers, pens, whatever, and have everybody draw or write down the things they're thankful for on that tablecloth. The pro tip here, even though I've never done it, I've been thinking ahead because my daughter said, well, how are you going to store this? And I said, well, I imagine it's probably going to be destroyed by food from people's plates. So the pro tip here, and what I'm going to try to be mindful of, is to make sure that before we actually serve the meal, that we go through and take pictures of everything that everybody has written or drawn, because this is the digital age. And while it would be great to preserve that paper with everybody's artwork, once everybody eats, that may not be realistic, especially if you have children or if you have people that just have a tendency to make sure that food never actually hits the plate or their mouths. I could be guilty of that. And I just thought this was a fabulous idea and can't believe that I've never thought of it before when it seemed like such a duh moment. So consider that. Butcher paper, craft paper, something that you use for a tablecloth that everybody can write on, doodle on, whatever. Because if there's a lot of family there, chances are they're sitting around that Thanksgiving table anyway for more than just the meal. I just thought that was fabulous. Disconnect to reconnect. Now, we all know where I'm going here, right? Collect the phones at dinner time. Some households do that anyway. Don't allow phones at the table for family dinner, and I think that's fabulous. But especially this family dinner. Collect the phones at dinner time or limit phone use during the gathering altogether. A lot of times, because my grandkids get very limited screen time, we'll keep the TV off. Now, I know, Thanksgiving is also football day. It's Macy's parade day. It's all those things. But when you have a family gathering, it's an opportunity to communicate and connect and do other things besides sit and veg out in front of the TV. And I know we're all full after dinner, and that's what we tend to do. But the less screen time, the better, and the more opportunity for meaningful connections. Simplify the menu. Simplify the menu and make it a potluck, or focus on 1 to 2 special dishes and outsource the rest. But I love that once we determined that we were hosting, that so many members of our family jumped in and were like, what can I bring? Who's cooking what? My daughter and I kind of shared duties. We decided what the key things were that we wanted to have and kind of split those up. So I'll be making some things here. Most importantly, I'll be making deviled eggs. I know that's the primary concern that she has. And she'll be making some things there. And then other family members are bringing some things with them. And so it for those who think, and I did too when I first started hosting Thanksgiving years ago when I got my own house, for those that think that hosting Thanksgiving means that you have to provide everything and you have to do everything and it's got to look a certain way and it's got to taste a certain way and good morning, Miss Kayla, and you're up at 4 o'clock in the morning. Unless that's just your love language and you truly love to cook, you can take a lot of stress off of yourself by asking other family members that are coming to kind of pitch in and, hey, can you bring this? Hey, can you grab this on your way? Hey, do you know how to make a corn casserole? Because I'm pretty sure I've had it and I like it, but I don't know what it is. And that's what my sister-in-law is bringing. Things like that. So simplify the menu, take a little stress off yourself so that you can spend more time making connections with your family. And then this one is my favorite, outside activities. We do spend a lot of time sitting on Thanksgiving. But I need the tray, Kayla, because I don't have room for my big Tupperware fancy display for deviled eggs in the refrigerator right now. So I need the tray so that I can be a little more creative with the Tetris in the refrigerator. You stinker. Corn souffle, is that what it is, Amanda? I don't know. I'm sure I've had it, but when my boyfriend asked me about corn casserole, I was like, I don't even know what that is. I don't know what that is. I'm sure I've had it, but I don't know what it is. And if she wants to bring it, sure, why not? So the outside activities are super important, especially if you have young kids. Again, back to the kind of the screen time. The previous family gatherings we used to do in my backyard usually involved some kind of a family soccer game across my backyard and the neighbors, because the neighbor's house was empty at the time. So there was plenty of space for a little bit of soccer. So there was lots of exercise and the family was outside. I like to go play catch out in the backyard with my grandson. He's got a really good arm for no bigger than he is. Go for a walk. You can do your own family turkey trot, but find a way to get out there and be active that doesn't involve screens, that involves the fresh air and family time, because a family that plays together probably communicates a lot better too. I know, I was going to say a family that stays together, but that's so cliche. So outside games, fun like that. Like I said, a family walk. My neighborhood probably wouldn't know what to do if my whole family converged upon them. a little family turkey trot in the morning or before dinner, anything like that. Or games inside if the weather doesn't permit, if it's too hot, if it's too rainy, whatever. And this is where you have an opportunity to really go old school with the games. And I mean, because it'll give you a little bit of nostalgia, while at the same time not feeling like everything has to be perfect. Spoons. You have a big group of people, spoons can get almost downright dangerous. Look it up. I'll find a link to describe how it's played if you're not familiar. And if you have enough spoons in the house. But spoons can be a really fun card game to play with a large group of people. You may need a helmet. It depends on how crazy the spoons start flying. Crazy Eights is another great card game that's awesome for a large group of people. And these are all things that can be adapted or made a little bit easier or are easier for younger kids to understand. Uno. We've been playing Uno a lot with the grandkids, and I had forgotten how much more fun Uno is when it's more than 2 people. And at one point we had Uno with like 6 or 7 people while my family was here during the hurricane. And it was a lot of fun. So don't underestimate those simple old school things. Yahtzee, musical chairs, hot potato. Go old school on your family's butt and do the old school games. If you've got a lot of people, you've got chairs out anyway, play a little musical chairs. It just keeps everybody moving. And it usually gets some good laughs if somebody ends up on somebody else's lap. And it's a lot of fun. So try to incorporate those physical activities that are going to it's like team building, y'all. It's like team building with your family, right? And another thing that I always thought would be really cool, and of course this could be dangerous because it may not ever look like the picture in my head, especially for those of us that might be a little anal about how the tree is decorated. But I always thought it would be really cool to decorate the Christmas tree with the family after Thanksgiving dinner. So if that's something you're into and something you can handle, with everybody putting things willy-nilly all over the tree, then it's definitely something worth considering. All right, so we got to talk about that self-care because you can't connect with your family if you're unraveling in the moment. If your lid is starting to come off and everything's starting to come out, right? So let's talk about that real quick. Kill the expectations. Kill the expectations of what it's supposed to look like. This isn't Pinterest. This isn't Hallmark. This isn't the Sears Wish Book. I know I keep, for those of you that are a little closer to my age or older, I keep making the Sears Wish Book reference this year. But you know what I'm talking about. So this isn't any of those. It doesn't have to be perfect to be meaningful. I cannot stress that enough. So kill the expectations. And more importantly, if you're going to be interacting with family members that you sometimes struggle a little bit with communication-wise, this is super important. And I know this is a thing with anxiety because I have anxiety and I have done this for most of my life. Stop rehearsing the conversations in your head before they get there, because those conversations are probably not going to happen. And I know that at least one of us in this conversation is going, well, if they say this, I'm going to say this. And if they come in looking like this, I'm going to do this. Stop rehearsing. Good morning, Cecilia. Stop rehearsing the things that you don't know for sure are going to happen. I know it makes us feel prepared. I know it makes us feel like we're in control and like we know what we're going to do. But we are spending a lot of time ramping up our anxiety, thinking about things that are probably never actually going to occur. Amanda, I'm going to assume your hands are up because of this. It's true. We do it. If so-and-so comes, I'm going to say this, or I'm going to ask about this, or if so-and-so brings this up, I'm going to let them have it. And this is what I'm going to say. And I'm not going to, I can do this all day. I can do this all day. And I know most of us probably can. But let's stop doing that. Let's kill those expectations. Let's not rehearse those things that may or may not happen. It's our tendency to prepare for the worst instead of looking forward to the good things that can come out of these Thanksgiving connections. Delegate and share duties. We kind of talked about that already. You don't have to do all the things just because you're the host. I often feel that way. I often feel like I'm responsible for everybody's happiness, and that's not necessarily the case. Yes, so much wasted time worrying. Yes, not today, Satan, not tomorrow either. I totally agree with you, Amanda. Have a plan. This is a really simple thing. Have a plan. Sorry, guys. Weather changes. Post-nasal drip, it's a wonderful thing. Have a plan for stepping out if things get overwhelming, or have a quiet zone that, because kids get overwhelmed too. And some of them, we can see it in them when they're starting to get overwhelmed and overstimulated. So have a quiet place that somebody can retreat to if they are overwhelmed. A bedroom that nobody's going to be in the rest of the time. A large closet. One of these days I will give you guys a tour of my closet so you understand what I'm talking about when I say my closet is big enough for a twin air mattress to sleep in, which is awesome. But you can retreat to a closet, a quiet place outside. I have made jokes many times. We have a camper. Make sure the power's on in the camper so that if it gets too crazy in here, I can go hide in the camper for a couple minutes. Have a place where not just you, because if you're feeling overwhelmed, chances are somebody else in the room, especially if you have a big crowd, chances are someone else in the room is also feeling overwhelmed, and they may need a place to retreat also. So have a plan for that. Have a plan for stepping out or a quiet zone for if things get out of control or overwhelming. Accept what you can't control. What? Is that a thing? Accept what you can't control. Late arrivals, messes. Kids are going to make messes. It's just a fact. Listen, adults make messes, okay? Heated conversations, they're going to happen. We need to focus on how we respond instead of reacting. And kind of accept some of it. You can't help it if somebody's late. You know what? If they're always late, we just say that they're on their time. I'll pick on Amanda because that's the name that's up on the screen in front of me right now. If Amanda is always late, she's on Amanda time. And we know that, and we just learn to kind of be flexible and accommodate that. Amanda, I don't know if you're ever late. I'm just picking on you because your name's the last one on my screen. Good morning, Miss Destiny. So accept what you can't control, late arrivals, messes, heated conversations, and focus on not reacting and how you respond, because that's what you can control. You can control how you respond, and you can also impose that minimum weight rule if you feel yourself getting flared up, like, I can't believe she's late again. Then you can be like, you know what? I'm just going to walk a lap around the house and calm down, and everything's going to be fine. So have a plan there, and accept what you can't control. Look at chores like doing the dishes after dinner. Oh, okay. So you are late. So I picked the right person. Oh, sorry guys. Where was I? Chores like dishes. I used to get upset with myself if I didn't offer to help somebody else clean up. Or when I was hosting, if everybody wasn't in the kitchen helping me clean up, even though my kitchen was like this big. Okay? It was a galley kitchen. It was like a 2-butt kitchen maximum. But then I learned something about myself. I learned that in a house full of people, like when we started merging families and it wasn't just my immediate family that was there, it started being like, 10 to 15 people in the house. I learned something about myself. That kitchen became my focus of control, because when things started to get chaotic and started to get overwhelming, I could retreat into the kitchen and start cleaning things. And I could still listen to what was going on. I could still chime in and make a comment here and there. And I could still be aware of what was happening and be part of the group. But I could also kind of be in my own little bubble and in a space where I could control what was happening. I could control if that plate was dirty or clean, and I could control if that counter was wiped down. So don't underestimate the power of chores like dishes for a little bit of therapeutic control moment when you feel like everything around you is out of control. That can be really, really helpful. So for me, sometimes that's a focal point. And a lot of times when I start hitting the kitchen and cleaning, the people that love me the most, that know me the best, know what I'm doing. And they will be like, do you need help? And I'll be like, nope, I'm fine, thanks. And I'll just keep going. And I can hear and I can see and I can participate, but I can still be slightly removed and in control of that little tiny environment. Good morning, Joanne. Simplify decorations, especially if you have a large crowd. Simplify the decorations because they're just taking up space that you may need. Reduce background noise or use aromatherapy to reduce stimulation. Now, the only thing I would say about aromatherapy here is to make sure that nobody in the room, before you start firing off the diffuser or anything like that, that nobody in the room has any allergies, that nothing that you're Most of them are okay, but there are some things that animals are sensitive to, some things that people are sensitive to. So before you go firing off diffusers, that's a good idea to check and make sure nobody's got any allergies or anything like that. But reduce the background noise. We want to have music on. We want everything to be wonderful. The louder the music is, the louder the conversation is. And next thing you know, everybody's screaming and you're like, oh my gosh, I can't take it anymore. So keep the background noise to a minimum because there's going to be plenty of noise already. And like I said, simplify the decorations because the less there are, the more room you have, especially if you have a big crowd. And the more stuff you have on the counters, the more likely it is to get knocked over or food on it or whatever. So keep that in mind. That's a great way to help keep you from unraveling. Mindfulness, deep breathing, visualization, grounding exercises. Those are all great ways if you need to take a break for a minute or to help you prepare for the onslaught of family. And then have a downtime plan to relax and recharge once it's over and family has started to disperse. Have a downtime plan, something that helps you relax and recharge. If you know you need a day to yourself the day after or a nice hot bath later with a glass of wine after everybody's gone, make those plans and make time for that because that recharging is important. A lot of times when we're around a lot of people, we absorb each and every one of those people's emotions. And we need that time to just kind of let everything go, right? And then most importantly, laugh and give yourself grace so that you can do that for others. Laughter is the best medicine for anything. I absolutely believe it. Laugh and give yourself grace. Because again, if you're not taking care of yourself, you can't make those connections because you're too busy unraveling in your own head. All right, so I'm going to wrap it up, running a little long, but I think I was a couple minutes late, so it's probably safe. I know you guys have a lot to do today to get ready for Thanksgiving, whatever that looks like for you, and whatever that looks like for you this year is perfect. So remember these things before I leave you. Everything changes. People move, they get married, they pass away. Those are opportunities to embrace new ideas and traditions. Even if it doesn't look the same as it always has, it doesn't mean it can't be wonderful and meaningful. Your holiday doesn't have to look like Pinterest. It doesn't have to look like Hallmark, or it doesn't have to look like the Sears Wish Book. For those of you that don't know what the Sears Wish Book is, it's this gigantic catalog that used to come out every year around the holidays with all the toys and home goods and all the things you could ever want to look at. And those of us that were children at the time would go through and we would earmark everything we wanted for our house when we grew up. And that is where I got this terrible idea of what my house was supposed to look like when I was older, because everything was always perfect. And the bath towels and the hand towels and the shower curtains and all the things matched and they were decorated for Christmas. And it doesn't have to look like that. Bottom line, it doesn't have to look like that. It doesn't have to look like Pinterest. It doesn't have to look like the Sears Wish Book. It doesn't have to look like your favorite Hallmark movie. I'm just saying. Another thing to remember is that the best memories and stories often come from the unplanned chaos that occurs during family gatherings. That's usually where the best stories occur. It's absolutely true. And it's important to remember and try to focus on those things that are going to make those memories and stories. Also remember that this is time. Time is something you don't get back. This is time you're not going to get back. So focus on those moments. And try to get that phone out only when it's time to take pictures. And most of all, have a very happy and safe Thanksgiving. I appreciate, okay, here we go. I'm going to get emotional. I appreciate each and every one of you, whether you are new to my Wellness Wednesday or whether you have been watching since the beginning. Good morning, Chris. I'm wrapping up, so please feel free to go back to the beginning and watch. I appreciate your support. I appreciate your interaction. I'm so thankful for all of you. I'm so thankful for 110 episodes. And I really, truly hope that you have a wonderful, gratitude-filled, connection-filled Thanksgiving. And I will see you all next week. In the meantime, I love you and be well. Bye.